Welcome everybody to this new episode of CCIR Student Spotlight. With me today is Shivani Anna. Shivani is currently a senior at the Independence High School in Texas. During her time at CCIR, Shivani worked with Dr. Yasar from the University of Oxford on a project in the course entitled Machine Learning and Computer Vision. For her project at CCIR, she worked on a project entitled Emotional Recognition in Market Research and Advertising, all of which is super cool. But before we get to any of that, I want to first say, Shivani, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So Shivani, let's begin by talking a little bit about your journey coming to CCIR. So prior to working with CCIR, have you had any experience or exposure to computer science? And how did you eventually come to be interested in this particular course within the Future Scholar program?
Okay, so computer science, that passion started with me like in the beginning of high school. Taking these courses, competing in clubs. I've also tried to, spread and promote computer science through nonprofit organizations. I think the overall thought process and logic of computer science itself, kind of just applying that problem solving to real world scenarios is like what stands out to me. It really just has become a topic which I'm always like have a genuine interest in, and it's something that I want to take further in my future.
Mm-hmm. And in particular, have you worked with machine learning and computer vision before?
So prior to CCIR, I knew that I wanted to conduct some type of research regarding artificial intelligence. It's a new topic that has just been coming up. It's applicable in so many fields, but I wasn't really aware of what machine learning was, or like the complexity of it really. So when I was offered this course, I just thought it would be an amazing opportunity to, add that skill set, and just, learn further more about machine learning.
Mm-hmm. So I think as the in-house expert, I know nothing about computer science. Shivani, I'd love for you to give us a little bit of a framing of roughly what the course was about. What was sort of the machine learning element in computer vision and image analysis that you guys were primarily studying?
So yes, so essentially machine learning is just the computer programs that are used to recognize patterns and data and make predictions. So it's all of the recognition tools that exist, including facial recognition, emotion recognition, which is what I used. And it's applicable in things like Tesla, like their self-driving cars. All of that is machine learning. One company that really stood out to me like during this entire project was Amazon Go, and the way that they conduct their fully automated stores is just by using these machine learning software. It just basically is the programs that like detect images and are able to classify them. It's also very important in medical research as well.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about entering into this course, not having had too much exposure to AI, but being obviously deeply interested in computer science and having a little bit of background there. What was it like sort of diving into the deep end here with CCIR, working with Dr. Yasrab? How was the process in getting acclimated initially into sort of the machine learning space?
Yes, so our course was basically divided into two sections. In the beginning, we had a lot of just understanding the content, practicing the content in smaller projects. And then towards the end of the course, that's when we really started to begin our own passion-driven research projects. So I would say that during the first few lectures, there was a lot of content that our professors would teach us during the lectures. And they would kind of frame it in a way that like using images, using diagrams, like frame it in a way that didn't seem a little too complicated for me. And then especially during those TA sessions that followed those lectures, we would be able to practice it ourselves. So not only do we just learn how they work, but we were also able to make them using smaller projects, smaller assignments as well. So although that I had very limited knowledge on it, I think that the course and the way that they approached us with this information, and also just like small reading activities, like doing your own, just looking into things on your own, that also helped significantly.
Mm-hmm. I want to also hear a little bit about the sort of maybe the challenges that you overcame initially, because the way that we do our courses here at CCIR is definitely quite different from, I would say, most high school contexts.
Mhm.
Um, so tell me a little bit about some of the initial challenges that you faced in transitioning into a CCIR research-based course, um, and how you eventually manage those transitions.
Right. Okay. So specific to my project, with machine learning and research, there's essentially that part where it comes with creating your network or creating your algorithm. And then there's also the part that's like writing your entire paper and just discussing your findings. So I think the most challenging part for me towards the end of the entire course was just simultaneously like doing both. On one end, I was writing my abstract, my methods, my whole paper, and creating these diagrams for my paper. And then but at the same time, I was here testing my model, training my model. So it's kind of like that balancing the two of, you're creating like a tool, you're creating a device and an algorithm, but at the same time, you need to be reporting all of that through our papers. And I think one thing that our professors stressed a lot was to make sure that not only was our code working, but like also make sure that our paper is coming along at the same time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what was sort of the most interesting aspect of doing the research paper side of things? Because we spoke a little bit about sort of learning how to code and doing sort of the device building aspect of things. Tell me a little bit about what maybe you found to be the differences between writing a research paper and, let's say, writing your classical high school level essay.
Yeah. So with the research paper, it's really about your contribution to the topic. So I think in a high school level essay, you're simply just analyzing what's already there. You're analyzing that and you're, just structuring it in a way that just completes the essay. But with research, every single thing that you write about is about what you're doing, what you're contributing. And just before you can even talk about that, you have to first understand what's already out there. So with the research side of things, there was that time where I was reading through existing works, existing articles and papers, but then I also had to add my contribution to this topic. What did I change? What new ideas was I able to, present?
Mm-hmm. And I think this is a perfect moment to transition to talk a little bit about your project, which sounds incredibly cool. So to begin, I gave you a quick gloss earlier of the title, but if you can just share the title and very, very roughly, what was your project at the end of the day in your in the computer vision space?
Yes. So the course title was Machine Learning and Computer Vision, Image Analysis and Segmentation. So essentially, when we finished our entire lecture and TA sessions, and it came time to choose a topic, there were two ways that we were offered to go about it, either choosing a classification problem or a segmentation problem. From the start, I knew that I wanted to apply computer science to the realm of business. I think business is just, your platform to convey a message, and just that networking and the professionalism behind it is something that I really wanted to tie into computer science as well. So when I was thinking about projects, I thought emotion recognition, like understanding your consumers' like reaction to how you're placing your products out there. That was just the take that I wanted to go on it. And it's just like adding to and expanding the existing technology that's already there in several companies. And then, sorry, could you please repeat your question?
Yeah. So can you, for instance, very quickly give an example actually here of one of the existing technologies and the sort of twist that you are trying to put on it with your emotional recognition in the business application space?
Okay, so in terms of what's already out there, as I previously mentioned with Amazon Go, essentially how that works is when consumers are in the stores and they're shopping, this machine learning technology is able to look at the item and scan what is there and automatically add it to their cart or add it to their total bill. So that same software of just looking at the image and detecting something, I thought like, what if we could also just, control our target market and see what their reaction is. Are they getting frustrated at certain places? Are they finding something convenient? And just recognizing the emotions of the consumers themselves.
So the idea here would be, so I've actually never been to Amazon Go, or so here is the idea that there are certain sort of cameras around that will pick up what it is that's in your basket and automatically put that on the register. And your sort of thought was maybe those same cameras can be retooled and repurposed also for the purpose of consumer satisfaction feedback. Is that the basic idea?
That's perfect.
Okay, excellent. So tell me a little bit about ultimately how you found that project to work out. So what were your findings? What was the technology sort of efficient and effective in sort of this capacity of emotional recognition?
Yes. So in terms of emotion recognition and just creating that technology as a whole at first, it was just like training and testing your models. And then there are some algorithms that are already out there for emotion recognition. And basically, I worked with my TA to find something that I could change. So in the end, I ended up changing the model that it was based on. So it went from a resonant architecture to a different architecture. And then I went from testing different things to see if the precision rate would get better from there.
And what do you think is the potential of this technology, let's say, in for businesses and maybe even for consumers from the perspective of not just the businesses trying to drive up their sales, but what sorts of benefits does this technology sort of hold, you think?
Yeah, so in my perspective, I believe that with consumers themselves, like if companies are able to like see their emotions and see their response to certain products, then their actions towards how they're orienting their business and working things out might be beneficial for consumers, because anything that probably made them frustrated could have been fixed. Anything that probably would have made their like shopping experience more efficient could also be increased. So just for them, they could be grasping a better consumer experience.
So I wonder, I have a lot of questions about this project. So with the initial data that you're, let's say, working with, were you able to sort of, was it mostly a theoretical model that you developed, or were you actually working with actual images and looking at consumer reactions in the real world, or was it a little bit more theoretical?
Yeah, so with the motion recognition algorithm, basically the data set was a data set that was already available, like open source on the internet. So the data set was called Emotic, and basically it had several images, like a complete variety of images, different people of different ages, genders, everything. And then it had like labeled emotions that tied to each image. So the images were not specifically oriented towards a business setting like a shop or store, but just a general just emotion detection, just like things that showed a lot of emotions.
So I wonder how suppose in Amazon eventually comes to you, Shivani, and says, I want to buy this technology. I'm just wondering, so how do you imagine it would be implemented? Would it be sort of in little cameras around the store? What would sort of the real world implementation of this technology look like?
Yeah, so in terms of stores like Amazon Go, I think the cameras would be how it would be implemented. I also think that it could be useful in like big box retail stores as well. But when we also look at like high-end stores, like jewelry stores, or maybe things like an Apple store or something like that, it could also be used to prevent things like theft, like by recognizing your body language or someone's like facial, like how their appearance looks, by training a model specific to that too. Like there's definitely a lot more work that has to go with creating that perfect software, but just the concept itself applied towards a variety of stores could be beneficial for business owners.
Fantastic. So I want to pivot a little bit away from this and now talk a little bit about your experience of working with Rabail, who is a computer scientist at, I believe, University of Oxford, if not Cambridge, one of those two. But I believe it's Oxford. Um, what was your experience of working with Rabail, working with sort of two experts in the field, including your TA? Um, how was that experience different, let's say, from working with your high school computer science teacher?
Right. So, as this course was just a weekly course, I felt like my professors were very patient, but at the same time, they were equipped with so much knowledge that they had to give us. It was nearly like any question that we had, they would just be, ready to offer us solutions and help. But it was like their expertise is what guided us towards like even finding something that we wanted to complete. They had so many ideas available, and they had nearly like they were well equipped and like had so much experience in I think every single one of our projects. So with emotion recognition, that was something my TA was really good at. And then something else was like segmentation in like space or like rovers is what some my peer did. And with that, my professor was very good with in that area as well. So it's just like the versatility of their skills, and also just their patience with us. They understand that like we have a lot of things going on in addition to just research at this moment. So they were just very understanding, and they gave us all the resources and guidance that we needed.
So you mentioned a little bit about your peers just now in passing. I'm also always curious about that aspect of the experience, especially when it comes to the Future Scholar course, because for a lot of students, it's going to be the first time that they're working so intensively and intimately with a group of other students your age that's sort of as interested in spending their summers doing computer science work and learning about machine learning. So what was that experience like working with peers who were, let's say, nerdy about exactly what you were nerdy about?
Yeah, so my peers, there were around four other individuals as well, and they were like located like all parts of the world. So it was just so interesting to see like just the simple things. Like for me, it was 10 in the morning, but for someone else, it was at 9 p.m. at night. And we were all just there ready to learn the same thing. And then just seeing other people's thought process towards how to solve a specific problem or tackle a solution. For instance, like during our TA sessions, we would have an assignment of find the most efficient way to create some type of classification problem or something. And then the different ways that everyone went about it, and just comparing that and seeing that there are multiple solutions to one single thing. And I was just able to, gain my own perspectives on all of these ideas.
That's fantastic to hear. So I definitely do think one of the distinguishing features of the Future Scholar program, one of the things that makes it really cool is this fact that you actually get to see other perspectives and work with peers and so on and so forth. Um, Fantastic. So as we're sort of coming towards the end of this interview, I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all the students in wrapping these spotlight interviews up. And it's very simply this. Um, you've gone through the entire course and the entire research process, which I'm sure was at moments extremely grueling, extremely difficult. At the same time, however, you've come through on the other end. And what I want to ask is for a student who might be thinking about potentially engaging in a research project, who is maybe a little bit daunted by the prospects of doing something like this, maybe because they've never done research before, maybe because they don't have as much knowledge as they think they need in order to do a project like this. What would you say to such a student now that you have come through the other end, knowing what you now know?
Yeah. So I think doing a research project itself is just one of a kind of experience, especially at our ages. I think that when you go to college and when you go to university, there are several opportunities that you might get to shadow your professors or, work on a research project. But as a high schooler, it's definitely one of a kind. I've done competitions. I've been taking courses at school, through nonprofit organizations as well. But research was just not something that I had gotten the experience of yet. So I think that CCIR gave me like a wonderful opportunity and a platform to do this and do it with a topic that I really enjoyed as well. It's just conducting research is just something that will really expand your skill set, whether that's just learning about the topic that you're doing itself and just learning how to discuss and articulate your thoughts into a whole research paper, and just expand your passions. And also it just improves your ability to just be self-driven, to complete that project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely think this last point that you made about the way in which a research project disciplines you into being a more self-motivated learner is definitely one of the, I would say, most valuable non-academic takeaways. It's a bit more almost like a character building thing. And so it's really great to hear that was also a big part of your experience. So with that, Shivani, I just want to say thank you so much for taking your time to do this interview today. It was wonderful hearing a little bit about your experience at CCIR, hearing about your project. I want to say I wish you best of luck in all of your future intellectual, academic, and perhaps also entrepreneurial adventures. And I want to thank you once more for joining us today on this interview.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an amazing opportunity.